like to call this village board meeting to order. It is 7:34. Has this meeting been properly noticed?
The meeting has been posted and noticed according to law.
Thank you. All trustees are present. Just one note, welcome to the new seats. We thought every year I had forgotten to switch them around as tradition, so today we have new seats at the board and we'll see how they go. The first item for business today is no special order. So is there any member of the audience that would like to speak today on an item either on the agenda or off the agenda? And if so, feel free to come on up, raise your hand, and just state your name and your address at the podium.
Hi, Ellen Ekman, 2500 East Redwood Road. I'm returning tonight to just clarify two inaccurate statements that were made at the board meeting on June 3rd. I just wanted the records to reflect that. As you remember, I came to that meeting to share with you my concerns about the change in process regarding the number of terms served by volunteers for committees. In particular, the change from 3 3-year terms to 2 3-year terms. I pointed out that I was surprised by that and the lack of transparency in the way that information was relayed to me, and I had reason to believe to other committee volunteers. I know that the procedure is that board members do not respond to citizens to be heard, so I stayed to see if anything would be discussed or any questions would be raised about what I had brought up. The village president made a brief statement on the matters I raised with no opportunity for response by me or others in the audience. So I came tonight to quickly clarify the 2 points. First, President Rozak stated that I received a letter indicating my term was complete. The notification I received from Tyler Burkhart on my terms on the Parks Commission came as an email on April 2nd, but it had an error in the number of terms I had actually served. He wrote that I was at the end of my 3rd 3-year term, which he reported was the maximum amount of terms for volunteer. I talked with Tyler on April 9th and explained that I was at the end of my 2nd 3-year term, and that would have been impossible to be 9 years because I had been on the village board prior to that. I followed up with an email on April 11th asking if he was able to check out my years of service. He wrote back that day and indicated he had talked to the village clerk and the village manager, and that they were going to follow up with the village president and trustee Carpenter. On April 12th, Tyler emailed me again that other volunteers had questions and that Rebecca would be sending an email early the following week to clarify. I called Rebecca on Wednesday, April 17th, as I had not received anything. We chatted and ended with her indicating she would get back to me. So, it was a great surprise that I came to the Parks Commission on Tuesday, May 21st, and found out that it was indeed my last meeting, which is what I came to explain to you. The second point I wish to clarify concerns the statement that President Rozak made that the committee received the names of 4 candidates who were interested in being on the Parks Commission. We never received any nominations. Maybe other volunteer committees received the names, maybe they received 4 names. Parks Commission did not. I checked our agendas and our minutes dating back to May 2019. We only meet once a month, so it wasn't a lot to check. I also checked with Tyler. The first and only agenda with mention of, quote, new committee members and chair, unquote, is the meeting of May 21, when I and the other committee members heard the names of the newly appointed members, and as you know, I learned that was my last meeting. I point these facts out to you because I know you seem to be very accurate in your minutes and in your records. So I thank you for putting this information into your official records. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Attorney Mayor, if someone disagrees with the statements in the 1 minutes, what would you like us to do?
It says, items for matters not on the agenda. It says discussion may follow comment on non-agenda items or discussion on any action to come at future meetings. So it's specifically noted the word discussion is used. So we have the discretion of the board to not address any items raised or not.
Okay, I did ask the clerk just to verify, and in a second, I did say that a letter was not signed yet because it was sitting on the clerk's desk. She had done some revisions. I think I did state it was an email, and it was, that was sent. And I don't I don't know about the 4 nominations because I don't remember ever saying that. So, but thank you for your comments. Anybody else in the audience that would like to address the board at this time? Okay. Trustee Boppers.
Madam Chairman, I move to suspend the rules and move item 9A to position 6. And
Do we have to spell those?
There's a unanimous consent on that.
Okay. Sure. Anybody have any objection to that? There's been a motion and a second. Seeing none, we will move that up. Is there, we were done with citizens, you heard it. Okay. Trustee.
I just want to take the opportunity, I'd like to thank Ms. Ekman for coming back and clarifying. I do just want to say on behalf of the board that I apologize for any confusion or, I guess, disregard for people's time and service. And I know that people invest a lot in serving on boards and commissions, and so I'm going to just assume that we're going to get better at the communication process and the coordination. There have been a lot of new processes put in place, and I believe that they are with the best intentions of improving the organization. But I think this is not the first time that we've gotten this feedback, so I'm just hoping that there's something being done to improve it. So, because I wouldn't want any citizen to feel like they weren't appreciated for their time and service.
Thank you. With that, we'll move up to agenda item.
9A, consider ordinance 3001, prohibiting conversion therapy.
Alexis, would you on this?
Chair, I'm sorry, I was trying to remember the AOT because we switched
Just make it.
Just to make it.
Thank you. I read through this and it never occurred to me that I would be presenting this, but, that doesn't matter. So let me just pull up my chair. So in your packet before you, you will see, can you tell me what page? While I'm scrolling, I'll thank everyone who's attended, who was in attendance this evening. We appreciate your support, no matter what item that you're here, that pertains to your interest. What was it?
59.
Okay, so what's before us is a drafted ordinance relating to a conversion therapy ban in the village of Shorewood. This has been several meetings, what is this, meeting 8? It's been in committee several times over the past year. The one item that kind of hooked us was just how the enforceability or the enforcement of this, because it's not a typical ordinance that usually something like this would be a statute at the state level. Since our state is not taking this up as an issue, it's up to municipalities to consider it. We have been asked by the community to review this issue, and so we've done that several times, as I said, over the past year. And so before you today is an ordinance that is very much like the city of Milwaukee and the city of Cudahy, village of Cudahy?
Yeah, village.
Okay. With the exception of, we do not have the health department enforcing this, we do not have the police department enforcing this, we have the complaint would be referred to the subject of a complaint would be referred to the professional office, state office from which the license is obtained. And that would be our follow-up. Everything else is the same. I'm still looking for the right page. I apologize. You wouldn't believe how many contract proposals there are. It's impressive, really. What? I know, but here's what's different. So, all right, here we go. So I I guess I would like to do that amount of process, and the actual ordinance is quite short. And it was very direct, very well written. I want to thank Attorney Bear for working through this with us on several occasions. And I would like to open it up to the village board, my colleagues and the village president to ask questions or discuss. And then we'll take comments from the floor.
Did you, trustee one?
Well, I guess I was just gonna build on trustee McKay's comments, saying fully support this ordinance. I don't know if it's too early, but I was gonna make a motion right away.
You're allowed to make a motion?
As long as we can take public comment.
Yeah, yes, we will.
I move to approve ordinance number 3001 against conversion therapy.
Second. Great, we have a motion and a second. Anybody else that wants to discuss? Trustee Mehta.
I believe there is a state, there's a, proposed by, it's AB 111. I don't know if it's the current legislative session, but Jocasta, something the last one.
Tamaripa.
Tamaripa, I believe it is proposed at the state. So I think that would be an excellent, since the state actually has the authority to ban or allow this practice, that's excellent. We should be expressing our support for that bill at the state. I also had a question on section 1C and the referral of practice to state regulatory agency. It says any person practicing conversion therapy in quotes in Shorewood as defined herein shall be referred to the state of Wisconsin Department of Safety and Professional Services, which regulates therapy service and professional counseling. So by saying shall be, I'm not clear. Are we saying the police chief would? I'm just not clear on who the subject of that verb is.
So which village department?
Yeah, I guess it would depend who the complaint would come into, to be handled by staff. Could be referred to the police department, could be handled if the health department feels that, they have the time and resources. I don't know if it really matters to me for the total. But that's something internally that, we've got a point person on that within the staff, or we make it have an internal decision on how to route the complaints. I think that's something that can be done.
But the inference is that someone on village staff is going to make that complaint.
Well, all you're going to do is just pass it. It's going to be passed along to the regulatory agency, who will then be in a much better position to determine whether the professional standards have been violated. They'll have, they can call a hearing at the administrative level. There are individuals who then, if there's a complaint, have the right to do things that we don't, such as subpoena therapy records or patient records and those types of things. So really, we're going to be used as a vessel to really pass along these, and really the teeth of this is the ban by publicly saying that this is not allowed in Shorewood, and that if there's a complaint, we're going to refer it to the right state regulatory agency and let them deal with making the decision as to whether or not it's been done, whether conversion therapy has been undertaken. And they have all of the tools that they would have that would be necessary to take proper action against some of these people.
So for our village manager, I'm sure we bought one. Is the clerk's office what we would recommend? I mean, even if a trustee or a board member got a complaint internally, I think was the clerk's office. Is it?
You can call that office.
So it'd be village manager. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's just because there's no one identified in the ordinance as to, which is as well, it shall be referred, but it's a little vague, I guess. I'm unclear about how it would actually work.
Yes, trustee one.
I mean, I see the point. I guess I'm okay with it because complaints could come to a number of different village departments, and it's incumbent upon the village to make sure those complaints go to the state of Wisconsin. If there were an issue with complaints not getting to the right place, maybe we then look back and amend the ordinance if it needs to be clearer. But I think right now it's just making sure that there's the police, or the village manager, any department that it comes into, we can refer it up.
It's the village manager.
Oh, so hopefully the village manager.
As you can order.
Okay, I just wanted to have the discussion too,
Yep.
so if it were to come up, we would have the history on what we were thinking when we wrote the word, when we adopted the word. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have any comments? Just Mark?
Yeah, I was looking through, I thought at some point I read in here, how would this apply to a religious?
It would not.
And how does that,
Defined as, I'm sorry.
oh, no, go ahead, that's why I was
I was
looking at
ready for
the.
that question.
No, I was looking at the ordinance, it says person, any natural person, so is it,
Right, but that's why it's defined, under definitions, conversion therapy is defined
okay.
by as any means any practices or treatments offered or rendered to consumers for a fee, including psychological counseling that seeks to change a person's sexual orientation or gender identity, including efforts to change behaviors or gender expressions, or to eliminate or reduce sexual or romantic attractions or feelings towards an individual of the same gender. But this definition does not include counseling that provides assistance to a person undergoing gender transition, or counseling that provides acceptance support. Anyway, we intentionally said that it's for a fee for service, so it does not relate to religious advising, spiritual advising, or parenting.
Okay, so I thought I saw that in the minutes.
And it is focused on conducting and behavior, not receiving a call or a request.
I wasn't part of the committee discussions, but would it make sense to specifically call that out, as Trustee Martin was saying, because it was talked about, and I know it was in the minutes, would it make sense to put it in there? To put the exception in there?
I'm comfortable with, I think we talked about that as long as we reserve it to services that are charging a fee and a credentialed professional. I don't know, just from there.
Yeah, a lot of this is, some of the thought process was to make sure it was consistent with what other municipalities were, the definitions that they were using, so there was some uniformity there. And then there's also, the language is massaged in a way to protect us against constitutional challenges from various, based on various protections and arguments that have been advanced through the federal court. So it's kind of been massaged as municipalities have adapted to what the courts have been saying, and so it's part of that is also part of kind of wanting some uniformity with our neighbors who have also passed these bans, so that there's kind of a consistent message that's being sent, and the definitions and regulations are similar.
Can I ask that everyone speak into the microphone?
Oh, yes.
Because it's very difficult to hear in terms of hands on the tape. Thank you. All right.
Okay, is there any other discussion? I actually would like to just thank the residents because, and the community members that came to the last standing committee meeting, which was my first on the topic, but we were kind of at an impasse on, internally on how do we do the enforcement mechanism, and I think that it was very helpful as we rely on our community members most of the time to assist us in providing information or recommendations that will get us to the next step. And so we were able to do that, and I really felt that was very beneficial, and that is why we involve our community so much here in Shorewood. So thank you. With that, we do have a motion and a second. Does
I'd just like to,
yes.
Are there any brothers or sisters or members of the public who would like to speak? You don't feel like you have to.
Thank you, Trustee McKay. I forgot.
I apologize, President Rose, I believe I'm supposed to read.
Oh, yep. There you go. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Shelley Gregory. I work for Ford, which is a transgender anti-violence organization that's headquartered in Milwaukee. We have been in Milwaukee for 25 years. We work nationally and locally as well with transgender and non-binary individuals in the greater Milwaukee area. We serve many, many individuals and families from Shorewood who are residents of Shorewood. And I'll be happy to leave my cards for the record. I appreciate the opportunity to address the full board, and I will try to be very brief. I think it's important that some of the information that occurred in the committee be sort of put on the record and presented to the full board members and an opportunity to hear that. I'd like to just speak very briefly to the need for the regulation, which I think has already been established. And we have covered the enforcement mechanism, which I think was taken care of last time. And I see that there are some issues that are being raised around the jurisdiction of the village, and we can certainly address that as well. I would preface my comments by sharing with you some information that I haven't shared before, and that's anecdotal information about my job and what I do and what I see in the greater Milwaukee area. And that is members of the LGBT community coming to me, coming to other advocates, seeking assistance that is desperately needed to often procure simply fundamental necessities, be it food and clothing, be it psychological counseling, be it a place to sleep where they will not be roused by the police at night. Why are people in these positions? Many reasons, I'm sure. But we do know that acceptance of LGBTQ youth, family acceptance in particular, is the #1 predictor for successful life outcomes for LGBTQ youth as adults. Acceptance of LGBTQ plus youth is critically important to their success as adults, as human beings in this society. There is no question about that. Demographic research indicates that. All of the psychological research we have indicates all of that. As I've said before, the scientific evidence also indicates that not only does conversion therapy not work, in that there has been no evidence from any study conducted that it is actually possible to successfully change someone's sexual orientation or gender identity. In addition, and this has been, that statement was made in 2001, 18 years ago, by the U.S. Surgeon General David Satcher, that there is no therapeutic value to conversion therapy. Secondly, all of the studies also indicate that in addition to not being effective, it is affirmatively harmful to youth, in that it results in consequences such as lowered self-esteem, higher use of substances, drugs and alcohol, higher rates of mental health conditions like depression and anxiety, and most importantly and devastatingly, higher incidence of suicidality, which is already extremely high for LGBTQ. In terms of predictors for LGBTQ youth and their successes in the future, as I said, the family acceptance is the #1 predictor. What is important is that youth be allowed to explore their identities and develop into adults, just as any other youth would. This is equally important for our LGBTQ plus youth. I see some advocacy, some emails that were sent to the board by an individual who is apparently identifying as someone who went through a reparative therapy process and is advocating that LGBTQ youth should not be prevented from receiving counseling to help them, quote, walk away from their LGBTQ plus life and identities. That does not happen. That is not reality. That is not fact. That is not what the science supports. Individuals in the XK movement, individuals who advocated for use of reparative therapy in the 90s in response to cultural wars, political wars, have all disavowed the practice. The ex-gays themselves disavow the practice that they put in place. So there's no support for this. The need is clear. You have an enforcement mechanism which should yield, I would think, zero fiscal consequence to the village. In terms of some questions that were raised about the propriety of the village regulating this issue. I mean, we have home rule in Wisconsin. The village is allowed to regulate matters of local concern. There is no state law regulating this. The village is not taking steps to preempt any state law that exists. It is completely appropriate for the village to enact this ordinance. Whether the state takes action or not, I think is irrelevant. And we have seen a bill that is currently pending in state legislature has been introduced at least once, if not several times before. I would encourage the village of Shorewood to consider the position it wishes to align itself with. protection of our LGBTQ plus youth is critically important. Those of us in our community are looking at a generation of kids. We are seeing youth who are not suffering the kind of traumas that we suffered as youth. We are long past today when it is appropriate to subject members of vulnerable or marginalized communities to pseudoscience. This is not Germany, this is not Tuskegee, this is Shorewood, Wisconsin. So I thank you very much for your time. I appreciate some of the ordinance that you drafted, Attorney Bader, and if there's any questions I can answer, I'm happy to do that.
I wanted to clarify for you, thank you so much. You had asked, or I believe in the hallway, I can't remember if it was you or one of our colleagues, but about emailing anyone to notify them what was on the agenda. So anyone who had emailed the village, going ahead and emailing them to let them know what was on the agenda. And I did pass it along to the village manager. And we do have Notify Me, which do you want to explain a little bit, just so people know?
Sure, it's actually an automatic notification device where you can sign up to receive notifications, so that's how we sign up and remind people, so they can choose what they want to be reminded about.
I just wanted to throw that up there for the next agenda item that you might have some interest in. It'd be great to sign up for it and so you'll get all the notifications. And I did want to ask the motion maker, was that,
That's me.
Wes? One of the things in committee that, in addition to the motion that was just made, which I support, we also had a secondary motion, which was to also show support or work with our intergovernmental partners to support state legislation. So not either or, but both. And I'm just wondering if that's something that you would be.
I certainly accept that as a friendly amendment.
Does anyone have any?
Well, what is the?
So it would be whatever the motion was.
It's just to approve ordinance 3001 prohibiting conversion.
And then to work with our intergovernmental partners.
To support any proposed state legislation or legislation at the state level that would also prohibit and ban conversion therapy. Is everybody okay with that? Because the whole board has to agree to a friendly amendment.
Because you have consent of those.
So, in the motion I said, I'm sorry, so exactly as stated is what you said?
Right.
So, could you read it back, please?
Yep. So it's to approve ordinance 3001 prohibiting conversion therapy. And then a friendly amendment was to work with the intergovernmental partners for support of state legislation banning conversion therapy.
And when we're referring to intergovernmental partners, what are we referring to exactly?
It could be the ICC, it could be the league of municipalities, it can be Milwaukee County if they were any other entity of government or.
So I guess the question is, I have a point of clarification on this, I'm not sure how, I would be more comfortable taking these motions separately. I think that it makes a lot of sense, and I would welcome any opportunity to collaborate with any of you, either with the ICC or at the League of Wisconsin municipalities or beyond. And also, and I do think it would be in our best interest to send a strong letter, maybe even a proclamation after this, or whatever we need to do to support AB, I can't remember some of the number.
111.
Okay, as, and continue to work across the state with other municipalities as we have been to this point in order to advance this. But in the sake of more of a pure motion, I do think that this is an ordinance and it makes sense. We want this ordinance to have as much teeth as possible and not have any ambiguity in the language surrounding the motion. Therefore, I would just ask that you consider withdrawing the friendly amendment to that, because passing it on its own merits is one thing, but then it's a little ambiguous the second part as well.
Yeah, I guess I'm okay with taking the two motions. I'm okay with the clarity that provides. Until we pass the first one and then move on to the second, I'm okay with that one as well.
And that's okay
I would
too.
prefer that.
How is it noticed?
Right, I think it has to be part of the motion.
I think we can just give direction. I don't think we have to have a motion to work, to collaborate or advocate on behalf of something that we've taken action on.
Right, and again, I do think that it is up to all of us individually or collectively if we do want to consider. moving
Trustee
forward.
Amenta?
I mean, I would prefer to take them separately, but I would support the motion to formally encourage us to work with our legislative partners to affect some state legislation on this issue, because I think that's where the rubber is really going to hit the road on this, so.
Thank you, trustee Warren.
But I mean, the bottom line is, it sounds like we're all trying to get to the same place, so I guess maybe I look at Rebecca and ask, what do you think? Do you think that direction is okay on the second part, and we should pass the first part clean? In your experience, what do you think we should, how do you think we should move this forward? Because it looks like we have general board agreement on what we want to do.
Direction is fine.
On the second, please.
Trustee Martin wanted to make a motion. Put it
I'm fine with
I'm
direction.
not, yeah, and I wouldn't interfere with anyone making a second motion, I would just prefer to take this one as it stands.
Okay, so that leads us back to Attorney Barron.
Can I make a suggestion? Because here's what here's what it says in the agenda. It says, consider ordinance 3001 prohibiting conversion therapy. You can absolutely, without a doubt, and give direction to staff to bring back information regarding state legislators that you might partner with or work with or follow up with on state legislation, or lobbying or supporting it in conjunction with either the county or other municipalities within Milwaukee County or around the state. And then you could have a specific agenda item on the next meeting or down the road with a report, and then someone could make a motion that says we would like to send a letter of support on the bill, or we would like to formally support it or something, and then you have specific action on that. Because again, conceptually, there's absolutely no problem with the board doing this. We just want to make sure we stick with what's in the agenda here, which it says consider ordinance. So again, giving direction to staff is absolutely appropriate, and then that can be reported back on best how to move forward, and then you can make a motion at another meeting to give action to that idea. Does that make sense?
It does, just a clarification question for myself. It was at the committee, so how did it just drop off? You remember it was in the packet? So, I don't know.
We're agreeing to follow up on it, so.
Okay. Process wise, oh, trustee Buckles.
I would like to call the question.
Okay.
Maybe more public comment.
Oh, unless there are more public comments, I'm sorry. Then I'll withdraw my call.
Okay, feel free to come up to the mic to state your name and address.
Tony Snell, I'm with the City of Milwaukee Equal Rights Commission, and I also am a member of the board of directors for the LGBT Community Center here in Milwaukee and Milwaukee Pride. Both organizations serve people right here in Shorewood. And this has been quite a lengthy process, but thoughtful processes can be lengthy. And you really invested a great deal of time thinking about this and discussing this, and I thank you for that. The youth of Shorewood, thank you for that, because you've made it a special place, not only on your agenda, but in your hearts, and I think that's what counts. Two things I just want to mention to you. 40% of homeless youth are LGBTQ. 40% of homeless youth. Keep that in mind. And one other. LGBT youth are almost 5 times as likely to have attempted suicide compared to heterosexual people. 5 times as likely. So the message we're sending today is an affirming message. It's a positive message to the youth of Shorewood, to families, to say, we recognize you. We believe in you. We support you. We affirm who you are and who you love. And that cannot be a better message to send. That would make Shorewood a great place to be, as it already is, but even better than it is. It will send a message to those in schools that bullying and harassment will not be tolerated here and will not be put up here. It's a clear message, and I can not thank you enough for considering this and moving this forward. Thank you very much.
And I appreciate your patience too as we work through this.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead and come on up. Just state your name and address, please.
Natalie Zanoni, 3152 South California, Avenue, Milwaukee. When I was first made aware that the ban on conversion therapy ordinance had been advanced to the Shorewood Village Board for a final vote, I felt compelled to show my support for this ban both personally and professionally. I grew up in the 53211 zip code. When I came out to my parents as gay, I was met with love and acceptance. Unfortunately, this is not always the case for others. Professionally, I'm a licensed mental health therapist. I began my career in 2012, specializing in working with youth, trauma, and LGBTQ issues. I had worked with some of the youth that had experienced conversion therapy or reparative therapy. The effects, I saw firsthand the effects that can be life-altering and even life-ending. I'm currently Director of Programs and Compliance at the Milwaukee LGBT Community Center. I work every day to provide much-needed services to the LGBTQ community. I can attest that the needs of this community are great, the barriers are extensive, and that support from community leaders like you and protective regulations like this one are vital to the health and well-being of the LGBTQ community. Conversion therapy, which has been proven harmful by medical and mental health care professionals, has no place in this community, and I strongly advocate for this ordinance so that all individuals, including the LGBTQ community, can be protected and become successful members of society. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hello, I'm Lance Weinhardt. I live at 4037 North Stoll Avenue. And I also want to echo previous speakers' thanks to you all for working on this ordinance. I know it's been a lot of work and a lot of time for you to think this through. And as the parent of an LGBT child, a strong ally of the LGBT community, a supporter of youth in our community and elsewhere, as a clinical psychologist and as a professor of public health, I urge you / thank you for voting today in favor of the ordinance banning so-called conversion therapy in Shorewood. As indicated in the proposed ordinance, the practice that is referred to as conversion therapy is not really a therapy and does not help anyone. In fact, it causes long-lasting harm by causing youth to believe that their sexual orientation or gender identity is wrong and needs to be fixed. And this has no place in Shorewood or anywhere. And I was going to stop there, but I noticed in the correspondence that was in the packet that was provided to you all about this ordinance, there was an email to you arguing against the conversion therapy ban, and the email provided an article indicating it was discussing the ban, the state level ban in Colorado, and discussing that some churches were developing a program that would provide so-called conversion therapy, and thus would work around the state's ban on the activity, which is using this loophole that faith groups can use. The correspondence, the emailer's argument to you seems to be that if we can't stop 100% of something that's wrong, then we shouldn't take any action. Of course, we have many laws that do not stop 100% of offenses, but are important deterrents nonetheless. That argument is flawed and absurd. The article this person sent to you to try to convince you to vote against this ordinance also stated that the people promoting this practice in Colorado, quote, train practitioners to set up groups in their local churches with the goal of healing LGBTQ people and others who are sexually and relationally broken by transforming them into, quote, mature heterosexuals. Let that sink in for me. Those are the words of the people promoting what they call so-called promoting conversion therapy. That argument is as flawed as it is morally reprehensible. So I urge you all, and thank you for your time, urge you all to vote in favor of the ordinance banning conversion therapy in Shorewood. This sends a strong message to our LGBT residents, youth and adults, that they are not broken in any way, do not need to be fixed, and are welcome to be valued in Shorewood. Thank you.
Everybody came so prepared and I did not. And you'll have to apologize. I want to apologize in advance because I'm a crier and sitting in the back crying the whole time. So my name's Celeste, by the way. I live in Milwaukee.
Address?
6128 West Richmond Avenue. I am also the Secretary-Treasurer newly elected of the LGBT caucus with the Democratic Party of Wisconsin. So as far as the conversations go about working inside of government to make a statement statewide that this is something that you're interested in, I would love to chat with you about how we can make something like that happen. I am also a survivor of conversion therapy. I hear you all talking about how this is a long drawn out process that you've been doing. I don't need to drag through a whole bunch of stuff because you've probably heard people talk about it already. Sorry. I just found out about that this issue was being taken up, and I needed to be here. I really need to get a thicker skin if I'm going to be in government. Hold on just a second. Okay, so we don't need to go through all the details of all the terrible things that were said and done to me. What you need to know is that when I moved to Milwaukee in 2007, I was displaced from my home by my family and living in a van. Everything that I owned came with me in my van. If I couldn't fit it in my vehicle, it didn't come. I attempted suicide 3 times over the course of 18 months because of the conversion therapy, which I just realized I was still calling reparative therapy until like last month. It's not reparative at all. What happened to me would not have been stopped by what you guys are proposing, what you're voting on tonight. What happened to me was religious in nature. What you guys are going to vote on wouldn't have stopped what happened to me at all. It wouldn't have. But in the whole time that I was growing up and that I was struggling, the whole time that I was fighting within myself, there was nobody saying, no, this is wrong. There was nobody. I saw nobody making a statement. I saw nobody standing up and saying, this isn't right, this isn't okay. And if I had seen people taking those stands and making those statements, maybe I wouldn't have done those things to myself to try to escape it. So, understanding that this is a small thing that you're doing here, that it may not have any applicable government effect, you might not be able to do anything significant. I want to say, as someone who has done this, that you will save somebody's life by doing this. You will help people who are out there hoping, like I was, that there was somebody to make them feel like they didn't need to do this. And so I really do strongly, whatever logistical stuff you need to nitpick over to decide who's going to be in charge of making these referrals, I hope that you figure that out, and I hope that you pass this ban. I really, really do, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I'm going to be emotional, and I apologize. I've gone through a lot the last 24 hours. I'm just Kat Smart, by the way. I'm currently homeless. About 24 hours ago, I was doing laundry, and I came home to my home engulfed in flames from a fire. We lost everything. I'm currently transitioning male to female, as well as my other 2 roommates also identify in LGBT community. And we're so distraught over everything, and as we pick up and we look for another place to move to, we want to be somewhere where we're comfortable being who we are. And by passing something like this, it makes us feel comfortable within a community. And as myself, I'm a victim of conversion therapy as well. When I was 12 years old, my parents stepped into it. And it is very traumatic as a child having to go through this. So I appreciate your support in this, and thank you for letting me speak today.
Anybody else that would like to speak on this issue from the audience? Seeing none, we will then bring it back.
One more comment, trustee.
I just want to say, please don't ever apologize for being emotional in public or that you don't have thick enough skin. You have plenty thick skin. And and after voting yes to a grocery store, I didn't go to parties for 2 years because I was afraid of people yelling at me. So, and that's like nothing. So we all do what we need to do. And thank you for coming here tonight, and thank you for not being silent, and thank you for helping us move forward.
With that, if any other board member has discussion, we can handle that now. If not, there's a motion on the floor. And a second, correct? Okay. With the understanding that there's direction, correct? Okay, right. All right, so do you want to read back the motion?
To approve ordinance 3001, prohibiting conversion therapy.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? It's a roll call vote.
Trustee Bachhorst.
A very loud yes.
Trustee Menta. Aye. Trustee Warren.
Aye.
Trustee Marker.
Aye.
Trustee Carpenter.
Aye.
Trustee Matei.
Aye.
President Rosen.
Aye. Ordinance passes 7-0. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Next item on our agenda is so do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda and then also after that? So moved. All right, does anyone have any items in the table? Just sorry, we're going to use this.
Right, I just wanted to give her, erroneously passed.
Yep, so 60 is processes for it, it's already been passed, those minutes are already there.
But that's one thirty.
Minutes were speaking for modifications for the minutes. So I apologize. I thought they were deferred to take a break and they really are minutes that have some revisions to those. By June minutes, I will need 6 and what was so it's not if you can go in
Oh, is that right?
3A, you just state what it is, it's the. Okay. That's right.
I just didn't know what it was, so I was curious.
I'll be okay.
Any other? 6D? Okay. I need to pull, there we go. 6-3B. And I need to abstain. And I'd also like to pull, oh, that's never mind, that's it. Anybody else? Okay. Is that me? I am. Okay, any others? Okay, seeing none, we will